Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective podcast. I am Sean Tasse, your host, joined by my illustrious guest today, Steve Tabrizi. Steve is one of the CEOs or COO of Remax Hallmark group of companies. I do pay attention to what the letters are after your name, Steve. Steve, you've been on the podcast. I don't know if this is your second time or your third time, maybe, but every time I have you on, people say, wow, that guy has so much information, so much knowledge. Please bring him back. So thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Sean, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure, first of all, to chat with you. Every time I chat with you, I get a lot of energy. I get inspired. And who cares about the letters and acronym on the emails? I'm one of you. I'm just a Hallmark agent. I'll do anything every day. And thank you very much for a compliment about my knowledge. I try my best.
Well, it shows. There was a comment that you made recently on a post that I saw, and it inspired me to reach out to you because there's a lot of stuff happening in the market, a lot of confusion, people not really understanding, hey, the rates came down, the buyers were supposed to show up, what happened? So I want to unpack a little bit of that with you. As always, guys, when you're watching this, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this type of conversation. You can also download the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also download the buyer or seller guides in the link below. And if you'd like to book an appointment directly with me, my Calendly link is below, so you can do that. That's all the housekeeping stuff out of the way, Steve. So take it away. My jump off point for today with you was that comment that you made on someone's post on Facebook, going into what's going on with the Bank of Canada, what's going on with the bond rates, what all of that means, what we're seeing in terms of. I think Jeff Grace, another agent out of Toronto, made a comment. He says, half the people I see, they're in Greece, they're in Italy, they're at the cottage, they're on a boat, so if the real estate agent's not away, the client is away, or the mortgage broker is away, or the lawyer is away, or the other agent who wants to do the deal is away, or the seller is away, or whoever. So we are in it right now. And we thought that something was going to change in terms of, in terms of the market after the rates came down. People say, oh, well, the rates came down, so everything's going to change. What have you been seeing?
Well, the most important thing, Sean, that I see, I think we as a practitioner industry and consumers, we have become so sensitive regarding anything. Life has become very complex. When we talk about month of August, before the schools open, before the Labor Day, I remember when I raised my kids, month of August was very simple, understanding. Take it easy, take holiday, because the game after Labor Day, with the schools open, with the kids' responsibilities, you go crazy, you go banana. But now we're just saying, hold on a second, why nobody buys the house? Why open houses is slow? And then when we talk on the social media, oh, it's August, people are away. Some other people comment, oh, what do you mean they're away? They can't be away. They got to buy houses. They got to do this. They got to do that. So it's the same thing. Everybody is expecting that the market, the behavior react fast. The interest rate came down. Why we don't have a lineup of the people? Why my house is not selling with a multiple offer? So we are 2024. I shared this about a few weeks ago. I do 2 market report annually, one mid-year and one end of the year. I shared it in my market report that basically this year has been a roller coaster. So what happened at the beginning of the year? The biggest struggle was inflation. Bank of Canada was very resistant to drop the interest rate. And then finally, we got the interest rate. The minute it went below the 3%, 2.9, we got the first drop. So, and everybody had a really high expectation. Okay, the first drop, the market going to rally. No, the market is not rallying. Why the market is not rallying? It's a combination of not only, everybody thinks the economy is real estate. No, economy is a very complex machine. It's manufacture, small business job, tourism, oil and gas, immigration. There is a very complex system that is basically very robust for a Canadian economy. So we got the inflation under the control. We did the first interest rate, which basically gave the consumers, okay, there is a light at the end of a tunnel. But did give them the enough confidence to rally the market? No. Stock market was doing good at the first drop, and then the unemployment report came out, economy report came out, and really described the big picture of the economy, that the economy is lagging. There is a tremendous lack of confidence with the current federal government. People are disappointed, people are upset for a variety of the reason, which we will not get into it. And then the second rate drops came in. The second rate drop, so basically, this is the message to consumers. Okay, there was a light at the end of a tunnel. Now they are saying, okay, there is a pattern, and the pattern is a downward for the rate. And because of the latest unemployment report and economy came out, now the money market, which is the bond market and the stock market, they're all talking that September drop could be actually as high as half a point, because now when the economy overall is impacted, the Bank of Canada got to stimulate the economy. The Bank of Canada is not going to do, or federal government is not going to do what happened during the COVID, which is called the quantitative ease or stimulus packages. Print the money, give it to the consumers, so it basically create a fake cycle of the economy. They already caused trillions of dollars of the debt, and they are not going to do it. So the only mechanism that they have to really reignite the economy is lower the interest rate. So what happened when you lower the interest rate further? Half a point in September is will be total of the 1%. You give a confidence to small businesses in Canada. A big portion of the Canadian economy is small businesses. They haven't reinvested in any business in the last 2 years. They haven't reinvested in any growth. The hiring is frozen in most small, medium-sized corporation. So that will give them the confidence, okay, I can borrow the money from the bank. I can reinvest. It's time for me to rebuild the business going forward. So that's what I see it's happening. And now you got, in our industry, you got two segments of the clients. You got either a seller, you got to get either a buyer. Buyers are, to my humble opinion, the smart buyers, the buyers that they really understand the mechanism of the business. They are right now in the market. They are buying. They are buying. Why? Because they know the trajectory is a downward for interest rate. The more interest rate goes down, the higher the prices goes up. It's just a matter of a time.
Yes.
Your city, Ottawa, it's immune for a variety of the reason. You don't have the pre-construction condominium market of the Toronto, so you don't have really a high inventory of the listing. Your city, it's really has one of the highest job paid in Canada because of the federal government. The majority of the companies that they work in Ottawa, they are somehow directly or indirectly related to the federal contract, provincial contract, so they are doing really good. And now you got a healthy interprovincial migration.
Yeah.
People don't want to live in Vancouver, in Toronto, in cities that yes, they got a good job, but the expenses, it's too much. Yes, I'm making $200,000, but I'm not having any saving. I'd rather go to Ottawa, make $140,000, but I have a better quality of the life. And we have seen a pattern of the interprovincial migration to Ottawa. Ottawa is still affordable. It's a great city. It has all the amenities that you want, and it has accessibility and the accessibility to the big hubs.
Yeah, and it's green, right? A lot of people overlook that part about Ottawa. Like we've got the canal going through right through the middle. We've got the green belt all the way around the city, full of natural, and then the river, right? You have a lot of green space in Ottawa. I think that's something that's really draws people toward. Now, I I think we're finding the same thing is when the interest rates are dropping, we thought, oh, well, once they drop the interest rates once, the buyers are all going to come out of the woodwork. But most buyers, not necessarily the intelligent ones, but most buyers are saying, hey, if there's a pattern of moving forward, let's just wait and see until what we get to the bottom. Like they were saying before when they said, let's just wait and see when the prices get to the bottom. Well, you're not going to have both at the same time, right? So there's this sort of holding pattern with buyers, and we're seeing it now. But like you said, it will start to turn the corner. I think a lot of people are, and this move also sort of leads people to believe, hey, I just have to hold on a little bit longer. I'm treading water here. I'm just trying to keep myself and my family or my small business afloat. If I just hold on for a little bit more, there's going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's the story that a lot of people are telling.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. But you brought a very good point. People, they think we haven't reached to the bottom, but people are failing to pay attention. The number of the transaction has dropped, but the prices has dropped only anywhere between 1 to 3%. And in some cities, it's actually now plus 1%.
Yeah,
So
we're same. Our prices are the same, and our transactions are higher than they were last year.
here we go. So if the transaction, even if it dropped nationwide, but the prices hasn't dropped, what's the message to you? You are
You're at the bottom.
wasting your time
Yeah.
thinking that we're going to hit the bottom. We are already at the bottom.
Yeah.
And if you are planning to say, oh, I'll jump in the market in October, November, or January of next year, I can tell you this. I've been predicting the market for the last probably 10 to 12 years. I can tell you the market will turn around, sadly, so fast. You wake up one morning and you want to say, hold on a second. Last month, we had an average number of the transaction compared to the year before, but this month, my God, is up by 30%. You don't want to be caught in that circumstances.
That
So
that
shop now.
Steve, that was my last month's market report. The number of sales as a percentage of the same month in the previous year was up by 18% for townhouses and condos, and up by 35% for apartment style condos.
There we go.
Those are huge swings,
Yeah.
and nobody pays attention to that, and
Yeah.
except for the nerds who really get into the numbers, right? That's a big change, and no one's really talked about it. Now, 2022, the second half of 2023, we fell off a cliff,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so we're comparing to numbers that, you know, weren't ideal at the end of last year, and we've been a lot more steady this year than we were last year, right? So that's color it with that. But money,
And with the change of the stock market momentum in the last week, stock market, Nasdaq, TSC, global market really fell off the cliff in the last 10 days, rebounded back nicely, but it's demonstrate that the people who have their monies in the stock market, they also recognize the stock market has reached its peak. So when you sell, the stock markets drop. So there was a massive sell-off and it's rebounded back. So, and it's historically when the stock market is now performing not really well, the real estate market got to come back and complement it. So, and bond market, I saw last night, 3 years, 4 years fixed mortgage, 4.4, 4.5, 5 years variable sitting at a 5.5. So we are going through that trajectory of the pre-COVID that we probably end up having by the end of the year, a 5 years fixed year mortgage of the 3.5 to 3.9, and then variable of the 4.5. So I am very optimistic with the market. I don't see any of these nonsense of the recession at all. One thing that the Canadian market has done year after year, crisis after crisis, 208, 212, 222 and 3, that basically we always manage to do a soft landing.
Yeah.
And the term of the soft landing, I think the Canadian governments, both provincially and federally, and the people who are in charge of the Bank of Canada have managed to do it perfectly all the time.
like Simone Biles, soft landing, stick it.
Yeah.
I want to dissect further the impacts historically that you've seen during an election year, whether it's an American election year like we have this year that we're coming into, or a Canadian election year like we're expecting, especially on cities that are, the federal spot, right? We'll get into that in the second half. I think that'll be some a good piece to uncover. Not to talk about politics. Don't need to talk about politics, but the effect of politics, or at least elections, on our market. And we will get into that in the second half. Before we get there, we're going to take a quick break and a word from our sponsor. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation, and we'll catch you on the flip side. This episode of the Real Collective Podcast is brought to you by Real Collective Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in the unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. We provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. We become an extension of your team and act as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective strategies that will help grow your business. You can find out more today at www.realcollectivemarketing.ca. Now, here's your hosts, Sean and Kyle. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective podcast, where we're going to start to talk about politics, everybody's favorite topic. Just kidding. We're not going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about the effect of politics and elections on real estate. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, download the buyer or seller guides below, or book an appointment directly with me in the link below. Steve Tabrizi, of course, we are getting into talking about the effects that we're seeing on real estate in election years. And what have you seen in the past? I'll tell you what I've seen, but I want to hear your spot first.
So what I've seen in the past historically, election, it means promises, hopes. So well, two things happen. Voters or consumers are very happy about the current government or previous government, or they are very upset. And either or is based on the hope and promises. If they have done a great job, they come and they brag and they remind about how good job they have done. I mean, I'm going to share my personal opinion. I think overall, the federal government, perhaps up to, I would say, mid-COVID, when the vaccination came out and we felt, okay, the Canadian economy, it's ready to be reopened, back to work. We were all safe. They did a decent job. Why I would say they did a decent job? Because they adopted on quantitative ease packages. They adopted many programs for consumers so the companies won't shut down. They made sure that the basically economy, even if it's remotely working from home, it's working. We had no major job losses. Yeah, we had a peak at the beginning of the first 3 months of the COVID because everything was shut down. And then we went actually down all the way to 5.4% of the unemployment rate. So they did a great job. What happened to the federal government? Federal government didn't stop the quantitative ease and the stimulus packages at the timing that they were supposed to do it. Perhaps should have been early 2022. They continue doing that even as late as of the early 2023. And it really caused a lot of, I would say, mismanagement of the fund.
Lag.
Yeah. And it caused that. Plus also, what else it caused? Listen, Canada is a beautiful, amazing country of the diversity. Immigration has been a pillar and a backbone of this country, but our immigration policies really was mismanaged and was not monitored. And what happened? So you create an unforeseeable and unsustainable demand by bringing newcomers. Doesn't matter if they're immigrant, student visa, work permit, doesn't matter. But they become a burden on infrastructure of this country. So
you said unforeseeable. I would argue that if you had some foresight, hindsight's always 2020, but I don't think it's unforeseeable. You bring in that many people that quickly, someone's got to say, "Hey, wait a second!" In a meeting, right? Some guy like me in the Hallmark meetings, right? The guy who's always a voice of dissent. Hey, wait a sec! Maybe this is too much, too fast.
yeah.
We don't have enough roads or whatever, right?
Well, somebody, Sean, for sure, somebody within the immigration ministry or with the federal government or even with the immigration processing system didn't pay attention. Didn't. Because
a lot of people had to not pay attention.
Yeah, they haven't paid attention. Yes, Canada need more immigrants, but let's identify what we need. We need skilled, qualified immigrants. Doesn't matter. You could be a skilled carpenter. It's very interesting. I was reading a report from immigration related to the real estate industry, is by Fraser Institute. Okay, 2% of the immigrants in the last 2 years, 2% are only related to the construction industry. The average age of the current construction industry by the many union, by the Built Association, is anywhere between 55 to 60. This is a hard job. This is a hard industry. This is a labor job. This is a very dangerous job. This is a very risky job. Imagine your average age is 55 to 60. What does it tell you? They're not retiring. They love what they do, obviously. They're getting paid high, but we also need a massive demand for more qualified construction crew, could be from basic worker to the engineers to specialties, but we're only 2%. So now what happened on this lag, now the federal government now is under tremendous criticism for mismanagement of so many things. And now Mr. Trudeau is just simply making an announcement, 500 million here, a billion here, 100 million there, and do a photo op. But it's very interesting. When I do all those announcements, I was at a meeting with Mr. Doug Ford about 3 weeks ago, very private meeting about understanding all the future promises and everything. I love all those announcements, but I put my hands up. I'm like you. And I just said, okay, great, 500 million here, 100 million there. But how are we going to do it? Who is going to do it?
Right. That's right.
You see, it's a 40 years term. Even if you be elected twice, 8 years term, we are really, really, Canada is really at a crossroad of that we need to really have a national plan for housing, for infrastructure. It can no longer be mandated province to province because they changed the flag too fast and nobody can do it. And the sad part is this. Now we are losing talents, Canadian talents that they have used our infrastructure, our universities, our education system, and they're basically, because the word affordability, they're just saying, I'm done. And then the last blow was taxation. You know, Mr. Trudeau comes and talk about capital gain, taxation, extra tax on the people who are wealthy. And his speech was really bizarre, saying, oh, if you are a person, he contradicted himself. He said there are people that they are dying to have one home, but there are people that they have their own primary home and one investment. Because they have one investment extra, we're going to tax them more. So are we discouraging people to build wealth for their own families, for their futures? Are we just encouraging people, okay, Sean, buy a home till you die and you have one home. So your children, they don't deserve, if the father and mother, they want to really help them to invest for them now for the future. So I think really what's going to happen now next year, Conservative come into play or not, I'm really not sure about the leader of Conservative also, to be honest with you. Conservative, historically, they are very good with businesses, very good. Liberal are historically are very good for national policies, Conservative for provincial policies. But I'm really not sure, is he going to be very proactive of the understanding the investment for the future? Or is he going to start cutting left and right and center, and we will be in a worse position? Because I have a feeling he's going to really cut everything because he wants to demonstrate that the mismanagement of the money, rather than to basically say, okay, these monies are there. Let's make sure that we imply them and execute them and do a proper future investment for our economy. So I am really not sure what's going to happen.
You know, I'll tell you one thing is I think as much as there's this whole fight or divisiveness between left and right or blue and red, if you really get down to it with most people are pretty, in Canada at least, most people are pretty centered. And I think that's why you're seeing it flip flop back and forth so much, because you get this idea of, oh, well, this is more and this is not more. And, you know, when you have one one party that's a little bit more central, it's easier. And that's why you wind up with conservative or liberal, and you don't see the PPCs or the NDPs or anything like that getting into a powerful position because they're too out on the wing. It's an interesting way. Again, I said we weren't going to talk about politics. Let's talk more about housing.
Oh, yeah, but in terms of housing, I think because of the promises and hope is going to be positive. U.S. election definitely
Yes.
going to help us because U.S. is our biggest trade partners. So we definitely we want sort of a pro-Canadian president in the House.
Yes.
We don't want an anti-Canadian either or, if the conservative get elected, which I do believe the conservative will get elected, I think Mr. Trudeau could have done us a favor and step aside, so we can. He could have done. He could do Canadian a favor, step aside. So maybe we will have another right candidate, so we can compare.
Right.
Right now, our election is very similar to the US. Do
Yes.
I want the Trump or do I want the Trudeau?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the answer for me for both is no.
So my what I've found in the past is when we talk about one of the main things that pushes us forward is buyer confidence, and especially in a federally amplified area like Ottawa. When there's an election coming down the pipe, there's uncertainty, and when buyers are uncertain, they don't do anything; they just stay put. And so, when we are leading up into an election year like we're going to have in 2025, a lot of people are going to just wait to see what happens. Hey, am I going to have a job? Like we had a really hard point in our market in 2015 because there were a lot of people who got a pink slip in the mail that says, "Hey, you might or might not have a job next year," and that really inflated the number of listings that we had, and it deflated the buyer confidence. And that's when we were in our most balanced market. We were. Other than that, we've been in the last 10 years in Ottawa. We've been in a seller's market, a slight seller's market, like
Yeah.
4 months of inventory or less. Not a COVID seller's market, but it's been rare for us to be in a balanced market in Ottawa, except when we had so many people have this uncertainty about their employment and their income. And I'm sorry to say, but normally when we have a federal government, it has a negative impact on our number of sales in Ottawa, because a liberal government comes in and says, "Okay, good, we're spending money. Great, here we go. Yeah, I'll buy a house." Right? That's what kind of happens.
But I think this time could be a little bit different, because one thing that at least is a good, the housing is a forefront of the conservative and liberal. They both have recognized about a year and a half right now. We really need to fix the affordability. We need to fix the infrastructure in this country.
Yeah.
They all know we need to bring immigrants, but infrastructure is collapsing.
Yeah.
And if infrastructure is collapsing, the housing is basically the housing is going to get expensive and expensive and expensive and expensive. The housing won't collapse. That's a good news. The housing won't collapse because immigration will not stop.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the infrastructure driving through the middle of the city of Ottawa on the 417, our biggest highway, you go through the downtown sector and you only have 3 lanes in each direction. Not enough. Sorry to tell you.
Welcome to traffic jam. There was a report yesterday morning came out. Toronto, the worst city in North America for a traffic.
The world.
And number four worldwide. I can't believe it. Number 4. It's
401 is the busiest highway in the entire world. I saw that
yeah.
report recently. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
With at its widest point, 10 lanes in each direction.
It's a parking lot.
Oh
we used to reference to it as a rush hour, but forget it. Now the rush hour is 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock.
There is no rush.
There's no rush.
It's a slow day.
Yeah, it's slow. Yeah. So
no, I think we hit on all the stuff that we needed to hit on. What would you suggest, Steve? I'll make this our last point before we jump off. What would you suggest for consumers who are either considering buying or selling in the next, let's say, year or so?
I have always said this for the last 28 years that I'm doing this business. Look, discover your motive, your why. People move for a variety of the reason. Relocation, separation, families growing, job losses, you name it. If you have your solid reason, financial ability, if you have your solid reason and why, the advice is very simple. You sell high, you buy high. You sell low, you buy low. So make your move. I am strongly recommending do not wait till the election. or do not wait till the spring, because for sure rate will be lower. That's guaranteed. That's good. There's no argument on that. So the minute the rates start getting lower, the prices goes up. So don't waste time, and buy. And my also general advice that the people who are not a homeowner, uh, enter to a home ownership market in any form and format that you can. Could be small, could be a little bit further away from the suburb of Ottawa, doesn't matter, but get to the home ownership, because I can assure you, the housing style in Canada is tipping. We used to be very proud, 70% home ownership, 30% rental. European are completely reversed, 45% home ownership, 55 to 60% rental. The way our housing affordability segment is going, we are seeing more people are investing in real estate. They're turning them to the rental properties. And we are seeing also younger generation, because of the lifestyle that they are now willing to compromise. They are saying, you know what? I don't want to be a homeowner. I want to be a renter. So the rental market is going to be very robust, very aggressive, and there will be a demand. So if you truly believe in a housing market, get into the market. Get into the market. Don't procrastinate. And the sellers, if you don't have to sell, if you don't have any of those cases that I shared, so wait, write it. But the buyers, if you really are in the market, you made your decision to buy now, because there are sellers out there that for those variety of the reason, they are motivated. And you need to basically understand their motivation and try your best shot.
Good. So if you have to sell, sell. If you can buy, buy. That's what it sounds like. Perfect.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good wrap, Steve. As always, thank you for taking your time and spending it with me and sharing your knowledge, your vast amount of knowledge with the three people who watch this podcast, maybe four. You can download on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. You can always download the buyer or seller guides below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with some of your friends who are interested in this type of conversation, and you can even book an appointment with me down in the Calendly links below. As always, feel free to reach out. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.